my name is Alexandra Fonseca, and I'm from the Sussex part of Vernon. I want to discuss not enough time. One concern is that CPAC has been inactive for at least 2 years. I did speak to the board earlier this year in January about my 11-year-old autistic twin boys who are non-speaking. Both of my boys were denied by the school district access to their preferred method of communication, which is through spelled communication on a letterboard. Though that is not the reason why I'm here tonight, it remains to be a major issue. I do want to clarify a few things for your knowledge, that the Vernon Board of Ed attorney claims that our method is facilitated communication, which it is not. Dr. Elizabeth Torres, professor and researcher from Rutgers, who was funded by the Governor's Council to conduct the latest autism research, fully supports our method of communication that we use, which is called spelling to communicate, S2C. Your Board of Ed attorney also clearly has outdated knowledge on the requirements under IDEA of prior written notice. I have written requests for several things, including our preferred method of communication, of which we have yet to receive adequate prior written notice and within the legal timeframe of our written requests. I was also verbally told that our method of communication would not be implemented because it is not state approved. I reached out to the state for clarification and requested a list of the state approved augmentative and alternative methods of communication AAC, and the state got back to me that there is no such list. The law clearly states that implementation of communication method is strictly an IEP team decision. Lastly, on this subject, the American Disability Act regulations for effective communication state that when choosing an aid or service, Title II entities are required to give primary consideration to the choice of aid or service requested by the person who has a communication disability. The state or local government must honor the person's choice unless it can demonstrate that another equally effective means of communication is available, or that the use of the means chosen would result in a fundamental alteration or in an undue burden. The main reason why I'm here is because ever since being denied access to my boy's voice in school, my one son has become increasingly anxious, depressed, and frustrated. This has led to increased self-injury, banging of his head and biting his arms. He has severe panic attacks, which has led him to be physically restrained to protect him physically. Most of these restraints have been a multiple person supine restraint requiring 4 people to hold him down to the floor. In my opinion, even just one restraint is one too many. These are extremely traumatizing. My son has had 3 restraints when I requested a functional behavior assessment, an FBA. He had 6 restraints by the time we reviewed the FBA. A behavior plan was implemented at the time. I also requested a trauma-informed approach for his anxiety and trauma since he had 6 restraints, which I was told if I thought trauma was a factor, I could seek private care through our private insurance. My son has just transitioned to the middle school, so a lot of big changes happening, and was restrained during the summer program, which sent him over the edge. I have never seen him more depressed, defeated, or afraid. He refused to go to school for a week until we had a meeting where he sat in and he was told that they would not be using restraints and would call me first. He agreed to that plan and returned to complete the last week of ESY. When I asked for this to be implemented in the IEP with a written request, the administration said they had been advised that they cannot adopt a zero restraint policy. My son so desperately needs, even though there are numerous programs out there that conduct school training for an effective, restraint-free, safe blocking, trauma-informed approach. Of course, I had to tell him that we were back to square one with no plan but to physically restrain, and he is nothing but an anxious wreck. I sent you all a video of my son spelling, "I want to be in school, but I don't want to be restrained." As of yesterday, he has had 17 physical restraints since spring of 2022. Today, he requested to stay home from school. This is now interfering with his access to faith. This is absolutely unacceptable. My other son has had 4 physical restraints, and again, 1 is too many. Research shows that restraint and seclusion have no efficacy and are dangerous, causing trauma, injury, and death. There is no such thing as a safe restraint. National data indicates that students with disabilities are roughly 20 times more likely than their peers to be restrained or secluded. This school district is actively causing harm to my children, and something needs to be done. There are effective strategies that can be put into place to protect my children and others, while also maintaining a safe environment without traumatizing them by meeting their varying sensory needs as neurodiverse children with proper training that the school district is clearly lacking. And just one last thing that's extremely important to mention is that Vernon has some of the best special education teachers I've ever known. They certainly care deeply for my children and they want to teach, but they're not being given the resources and training necessarily to create a safe environment for our children. Thank you.
You know, I did forward all the videos that you had sent to me to the board members. We can't speak at a public meeting about an individual student, but we do speak in our executive session. So I just want you to know that we're hearing you, and thank you for sharing your story. We do have conversation, about individual students in executive, and everybody does have the videos and everything. So I know it takes a lot of courage to come to the podium and speak. You did an excellent